A very good afternoon and welcome along to this week's Lite Bite Lunch. I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Mark from Hidden Howth Experiences. We'll start off by letting Mark introduce himself first. So Mark, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Rory. First of all, thanks for inviting me onto the show today. So my name is Mark McHale. I'm the founder of Hidden Howth Experiences, which offers unique once-in-a-lifetime experiences to guests from all over the world on the beautiful Dublin Coastal Trail on Howth Peninsula. My early years weren't actually in tourism; they were actually in retail. So for most of my life, actually up until about 10 years ago, I had various roles in retail. Regional manager for like some lifestyle sports, Heaton's, Deals, the airport retail. And then about 10 years ago, I thought, I wanted to whole kind of change of direction. I'd studied history when I was young and I live in a beautiful place. And I thought, you know what, I want to spend the second half of my life doing something a lot more fun. And then I decided to make that leap into tourism and start my own business.
Absolutely brilliant. Well, as I said, we're delighted to have you join us today. And I see Karen is delighted as well because she's already sent a message in to say hi to you.
Okay.
So,
Hi, Karen.
Yes. I'm just trying to switch that off. There we go. So, having grown up in Northern Ireland,
Yeah.
right? You've experienced very much a different way of life to life as you have in the South. Like having grown up during the Troubles, albeit at the end of it, you still had some experience of the discomfort, let's just say, that Northern Ireland had to offer.
Yeah, like obviously living up in the north of Ireland is a very different. When you live there and you live kind of through it and during it, and obviously I was there, and I remember most of the 80s and the early 90s when there was quite a lot of trouble. When you're there, it just seems like it's normal. And now that I've moved down to the south of Ireland, you look back on it and you think that's anything but normal. And thankfully, the place has moved on. Although when you listen to any of the news reports today, I just came away from listening to the storm in Parliament there, or the Assembly, you would feel that maybe it hasn't moved on as much as it should, given the time frame that we've had the Good Friday Agreement. So there's still some kind of overtones there to the past, but hopefully now they'll kind of get it sorted for the future.
Well, that's the whole thing. It's looking very, very likely that we're going back to another election, which is disappointing. But all in all, hopefully, as I said, long term, we're going to see a solution there because, again, I spent a few years living in Belfast, and I have to say, it's such a different way of life, yet such an exceptionally good way of life. And the people of Belfast themselves are absolutely brilliant people to be around and very, very supportive of small businesses. So,
yeah, absolutely, for sure. I mean, I've lived up there. There's great people. I still have family up there. I'm up and down to the north of Ireland every, 2 or 3 times a month. And the links are perfect. I mean, you're up there in 2 hours these days. So it's not the chore that it used to be before. We had the good road network, but people are all very, very great. It's just if we could get them all on the same page and being a little bit more nice to each other, hopefully we'll get there in the future.
Yeah, no, I have no doubt that very soon there will be a light at the tunnel. And it's just a case at this moment in time, for some it feels that light is a train coming in the other direction. But
sure.
But I do believe that there are solutions to be found, and I'm glad I'm not the one that has to try and find them.
Yeah, you and me both.
Yeah. So when if we go back to the early days of the Hidden Howth Experiences,
mm-hmm.
right? From what I recall, what you were looking to do was you were basically organising walking tours of Howth and guiding people walking up Howth Head, that type of thing. That's more or less how it started for you.
Yeah, more or less. Like, I mean, I've been around the world. I travel different areas, and I come across the setup of the free walking tours system, and I'd done a few in Paris and in Italy, and I thought it was a really good system to start with. So for me, that was probably my introduction into the tourism. I thought I was gonna, and I started up a company called Free Walking Tours, Howth. Obviously, there's free walking tours around the world with different companies. There's a big one, obviously, in Dublin, and they seem to be relatively successful. So I thought this would be a good model to kind of start with, to kind of ease yourself into. So Free Walking Tours Howth was created first, and again, that was just providing tours of all the best sites in Howth. Howth it's a very sort of unique part of the Dublin coastal kind of area. We've got some of the most beautiful hikes. And we've got some of the most beautiful kind of historic structures, from the longest lived in structure in Ireland with Howth Castle to, Martello Towers and stuff. So a lot of great history and a lot of great views. And we're only 30 minutes from Dublin, which is probably the most unique part of Howth. And why it's been sort of promoted more as part of the kind of the Dublin Coastal Trail. You don't need to go to the west coast anymore to get all the beautiful views. The Dublin Coastal Trail, right the way from Dalkey right up to, Skerries, has got some of the most beautiful scenery that you'll see in Ireland. So that was my introduction kind of to the tourism world, was doing the free walking tours Howth.
Right. Now, as you know, every guest who comes on the show is asked about their favourite Lite Bite lunch. So, in like that, what is the ideal go-to quick bite at lunchtime?
My comfort food, and anybody who knows me will know this, it's actually cheese and ham toasties. Cheese and ham toasties. I would probably have a cheese and ham toastie every day of the week. And if I could make it every meal, I probably would. But obviously, I need to make sure that I extend my life, and so I need to vary my diet slightly. So, but yeah, cheese and ham toastie, without a shadow of a doubt, my go-to food, and I can make them, which helps.
Yes, that's also a good help. We have a question in for you from Maggie.
Yeah.
Maggie is wondering, have you met the Mayo goats up on Howth Hill?
Yes, actually, Maggie, I did. I had a group. Actually, I had a group that the Leprechaun Museum actually booked me for one of their kind of corporate days out, and we put together a package for them, which kind of involved a boat trip around Ireland's Eye, a hike around kind of the cliff and all the historic sites. But they also wanted to meet the goats. So I know Melissa, who is the goat herder up there, and I arranged with her that we would meet at a certain location and we would see the Howth goats. It's quite the attraction, I have to say. And the Leprechaun Museum, the guys from there, they just absolutely loved it, and it was great because Melissa was able to spend a little bit of time with us and tell us just about the whole kind of history and how it came about, and give us a little bit of insight into what it's like to be a goat herder in Howth Head. But yeah,
and I'd say that's certainly a most interesting job, and somebody that the next day I'm out around Howth, I might get you to introduce me to, because I think she'd make a great guest for the show with lots of stories to tell.
For sure. Like I say, I mean, the whole thing has become quite the attraction. I mean, I think now I've seen about 7 or 8 different articles in newspapers and online and whatever where she has been interviewed. So you'll have to get her on the show, Rory, because she's quite an interesting character and some really good stories to tell as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you were one of the recipients of a micro business award last week. You won the award for reinvention.
Yeah, that was brilliant. That's one of our great moments. Obviously, we've come through just a kind of a terrible time, but I suppose that I go back a little bit kind of further, because obviously I said that we'd started off with the free walking tours Howth, but I sort of very quickly established that probably wasn't the model that was right maybe for Howth. Maybe it's right for a big city, but the people that you get out here probably aren't kind of interested in that sort of kind of model. So I quickly evolved after about a year and a half into the Hidden Howth Experiences, which was offering more premium tours to people, smaller groups, that more intimate kind of immersive experience that people really want, where they kind of want to come and see what it's like to live like you for a day. It's almost live like the local kind of feel. That's the new type of tourism now, and it's all about the kind of the smaller group. So I morphed the business into Hidden Howth Experiences, and again, that's just offering kind of cultural tours, history tours, scenic tours, and we've got a great craft beer and seafood trail, which kind of takes us around all the best hidden spots in Howth for local craft beers and some of the best seafood. So that was probably one of our first kind of ventures into the kind of the reinvention of the model that I'd originally started out with. And that proved to just be very, very successful. Like I say, through 2019, we were seeing really, 2018, 2019, we were starting to see really huge growth. Coming up into 2020 was just looking like it was going to be an absolutely awesome year for the business. Looking at a little bit of expansion, taking on a few extra people. And then obviously we had the pandemic, which kind of had other ideas. And I think it was like just one night in March, I think Trump had announced the ban to Europe for flights, and literally it was like a tsunami of cancellations happened. Basically, I woke up the next day to basically every booking, at least for the next sort of 6 weeks within sort of March, and April had just disappeared completely, which obviously, caused a lot of stress. At that stage, I think everybody was sort of on the, yes, it's going to be 2 weeks or it's going to be 4 weeks or whatever, because that was the official line coming out was we're going to be through this in, within a relatively short space of time and we'd be open back up again. But as the pandemic sort of progressed, you sort of realized more and more bookings throughout the year were being cancelled, and 2020 in terms of in real life bookings was probably going to just be a write-off. So at that stage, I did what a lot of people probably in my industry did. We did a little bit of there was a few tears. There was probably a little bit of day drinking through March and April, which I think everybody can attest to. And then in around about the sort of June period, I thought, I'm going to really have to think about what I do, because, the year's gone for IRL or in real life booking. So I'm going to have to really evolve the business into something else. And I had came up with the idea of doing a virtual online tour, which I put together and launched in June of 2020.
Right. And so take us on a sample of that tour. If people book your virtual tour, because it's very hard to give them that in-person experience over the internet. So what would your typical online tour consist of?
Yeah, no, absolutely, for sure. And I mean, when I was seeing it and I was putting it together myself, and there was a bit of investment into it. Like, I mean, obviously I had to buy myself a 360-degree camera. I had to get some drone footage done and really upgrade the computer. And I was nervous about doing that at the time and spending that sort of money whenever there was nothing really coming in. But I thought it was worth that sort of leap of faith. In my own head, I was like, I don't know how this is going to work. And when I discussed it with some of my friends, some of my very good friends and business colleagues, they were like, go for it. But I can't see it working. So I did go for it. There was a good platform. Airbnb put on an online platform. And I was very lucky enough to be one of the first ones that was actually on this platform. And very quickly, you could just see the booking soar. Within it, basically, you would join me online. Small groups, again, very sort of intimate, no more than 10 people. And I would have pre-recorded basically the whole entire tour. I would have a 360-degree camera and some drone footage where it was like, you were walking with me and Missy, because you could actually see us in the shot as we were walking through Howth around the historic sites. And I put all the videos together, and then I would come online with you, play the videos, but then I would tell you the story live. And the good bit about it versus maybe just watching a YouTube videos, I'm constantly interacting with the group. So you're constantly asking questions, you're constantly, answering questions and just engaging with people and giving it that sort of kind of personal touch, which really did make the difference. You could have quizzes, you could put together online music and bring them through this kind of whole kind of just really great online experience. And very quickly, the online experiences just took off. They took off for us. It was well beyond anything I could have ever imagined at the time.
Well, I mean, certainly I know that from talking to people that have joined you on the tour, that they always really enjoyed it. Karen has just come back about to mention about Missy being such an important part of your tours.
Yeah, obviously I have I call her co-tour guide, but I think she's in charge. She's definitely our head of marketing. I'll give her that. So she's,
Yes.
and whether it's the in real life or whether it's the online, a lot of people will literally turn up because they want to see the dog. So, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But yes, she's definitely an integral part, especially from the marketing piece. But she actually comes with me on all the tours as well. So that's kind of one of the great bits about the unique sort of selling point about the tour, that it's dog friendly, whether it's Missy, and when we expand out, it'll maybe be another dog. The dogs will come with you on the tour as well. So, and you can bring your own dog as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, as I mentioned to you when we were down at the awards, one of the judges had actually asked the question, was Missy coming to the awards as well as such a key part of the business? But
yeah, and let me tell you, if the Ospreys Hotel would have let us sneak her in,
yes,
she would have been there, let me tell you.
absolutely, absolutely. So if you were in a position, Mark, and you happened to pick the right numbers for tomorrow night for the 120 million,
Yes.
what would your dream be to do with the money?
Oh, what would I do with the money? I think I would obviously I love the industry that I'm in. I wouldn't want to give up work because I don't think that would be a very good lifestyle choice. I don't know what you would do yourself. You probably just end up dying early or something. So I think I would definitely stay within the industry that I'm in, but just kind of expand it out a lot and try and move into like maybe even coach tours and around the rest of Ireland as well, and just create this kind of like real immersive tourism business, small groups to bring people around all of Ireland to give them that real kind of Irish experience. So I think I would invest heavily in the business and expand it out. So it may turn into hidden Ireland experiences or hidden Ireland adventures.
Absolutely, and
I'd
I mean,
take a
this
few holidays for sure. I definitely would take a few holidays.
few holidays, and all of those, of course, would be market research to look at the best way to maximize these tours.
For sure, for sure.
So, tell me, what's next for Hidden Howth? What's the next big step going to be? Do you feel?
Well, obviously, the online was very much, it was like a key part of the business. It was probably the only part of the business through the kind of whole COVID pandemic. And as things started to open up again, and the in real life tours came back, you could start to see a sort of a bit of a dip in the online. But the online is still there, which is good because it's going to be a key part of the business kind of going forward. And the great thing about it is its key times are actually around Christmas time with office parties and stuff, and that tends to be when most tourism businesses in Ireland are a little bit quieter anyway. So it's sort of almost like future proof me for the kind of the winters as well. The in real life experiences have come back this year with an absolute bang. I couldn't have predicted how busy we would have been this year. It was beyond our expectations and was definitely the best year that we've had. And if we can kind of grow on this success of this year and build again for next year. So other bits that have come into the business. So I know part of the reinvention with Attitude Award that we got was obviously for the move into the online, but also the business profile has now sort of moved from just, people in the local area knowing. Now we've got industry recognition from likes of Fulcher Ireland, Viator, TripAdvisor. Like this year, we were voted the 8th best experience in Ireland for the Dublin Coastal Hike and Pints Tour we have with Missy, which is great industry recognition. And from that, we've obviously had a lot of the other tourism operators, the DMCs who bring people into Ireland, have now started to link in with us and starting to give us bookings and bigger bookings. So I can see next year being an absolutely huge bumper year for us again. So we're going to definitely look at expanding out the team that we have. Moving on from that, during the pandemic as well, I also, as a mini project, I created a tourism app for Howth. Which had all of the trails, all of the businesses, all of the information, was geo-fenced. So you could download the app and have a real sort of like kind of tourism experience around this area. And that's proved to be very, very successful. And I've been actually asked to develop a few apps for other areas. So I will probably put a little bit of emphasis on that, developing those extra apps and maybe trying to push for a little bit more business and designing apps for other areas in Ireland as well. So that's probably what we're looking at now for the future.
Right. I have an email just after coming in there from Peter is saying, would you ask Mark, as somebody who has been in retail and made the jump to self-employment, is it really as scary? And how long before you actually made the jump did you start trying to do both?
How we tried to do both, as in,
So in other words, when you started off with
yeah,
your Hidden Howth
yeah.
and your walking tours, were you still working in retail as well, or did you just make a clean jump and go?
Yeah, so I just kind of made a clean jump and went. I got to the position where I was able to get myself a year to see if I could make something work. And if it worked, great. And if it didn't, then I would go back to retail. Obviously, I had a successful career in retail. I had a good CV kind of within the retail sphere. So I knew going back after a year, I could do. So, I mean, obviously, I wanted to make the business work. But at the same time, I knew that if it didn't, and I give myself that full year to concentrate on it fully. And I don't know whether or not it would have worked if I had been trying to do it sort of part time. I think you really kind of need to make that jump and throw yourself into it full time to really, really make it work. There would be other ways to try and build it up slowly. You could, Airbnb experiences, you could be maybe just doing them on a Saturday and a Sunday. But I felt for myself to really give it that chance and breathe that life into the business, I needed to do it full time. So I went straight in.
Again, I think it's a case that you have to be willing to back yourself.
Yeah.
And if you're doing it and keeping a safety net there, there's probably risks you won't take. Whereas if you throw yourself at it wholeheartedly, you're more willing to take that risk to make it work.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we are a couple of minutes ahead of schedule, but if people want to get in touch with you and want to find out more about your tours and what you do, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Well, obviously, we have the website, so hiddenhowthexperiences.com, which was fully redesigned there just during the COVID. So we've actually a brand new website coming into 2020 as well, which really probably helped with the year that we had and the bookings. You can email me, Mark, at hiddenhowthexperiences.com if you want to ask a question about how I moved and made the transition, and even some of the kind of the reinvention that we did during the COVID time. Absolutely, just email me, and then obviously call me on my number as well. They're all kind of information that you can find out from the website. Email's probably the best. I'm getting around to a lot more emails now in October. Like I say, we've had an absolutely bumper year this year, and I think most people in the tourism industry have been surprised and caught out by just how well it has come back this year. There's a few factors in that. We are benefiting from a very good dollar. So the exchange rate for people coming to Ireland from the US, which is probably the majority of my customers anyway, things are a lot cheaper for them because they're getting a lot more euro for their dollar. But yeah, you can just contact me at any information on the website.
That's great. Well, we'll wind it up there, albeit a few minutes early, but we will be back in 2 weeks' time when we're going to be joined by Brendan Murphy, talking a little bit more about Ukraine and other bits and pieces that he has coming up. So until then, I wish you all a very good afternoon. Mark, thank you so much for your time, and we'll talk to everyone in 2 weeks' time.
Thanks for listening. Bye.